album
No,
where there
do
was a
not. No,
ton
no,
of
no, 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 no. No,
dude.
you are not doing that. You are not comparing this album to the Charlie album. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Fresh Record Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Wiley Todd, and of course, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Benny Camila. How you doing, Benny?
I'm doing great. Doing great. Lots of music to talk about today. The sun is shining. The skies are blue. Um,
Okay, Jack Johnson,
do
calm
you
down.
do you hate Camila Cabello's new album too?
Well, before we go into that, I gotta talk
I'm
about
just kidding.
something.
I'm just kidding.
I gotta
What's
talk
up?
about something. Okay. My favorite show of all time is The Bear. And The Bear just released its new season on Thursday. I watched it all the way through twice. It is the greatest thing to happen to television and movies and music and stuff like that. The soundtrack is so good. Freaking Eddie Vedder made an original song for the freaking soundtrack, dude. Do you know the last time Eddie Vedder did that was for a movie Into the Wild that like went bonkers, like crazy. I just love The Bear. So I had to mention it here because The Bear's the greatest. So, but yeah. We got a lot to talk about this week. Our main topic, of course, is talking about the Camila Cabello new album, C XOXO. We're also going to cover things like Sophie's announcement of her new album. We also have a bunch of smaller albums that we're going to cover and say brief thoughts. Of course, our orange juice segment, as always. All that. So, yeah. Let's start off with the Camila Cabello album. I think before we get into our thoughts about it, we should establish what we know about her. So Benny, what do you know about Camila? What's your history?
My history. So I was introduced to Camila Cabello watching The X Factor back in 2013, I believe. Um, she auditioned as a solo artist. I think they showed like a very small snippet of her audition, which I believe she sang "Respect" by Aretha Franklin. And then it wasn't really until they put the group together, Fifth Harmony, which at the time I think they were called the Lilas, and then they changed the name to Fifth Harmony after the fact. Um, and yeah, the group performed. I believe it was at Simon Cowell's house, and I forget the guy that was with him. He had like a celebrity guest to like help him pick who was gonna make it onto the next round. But they ended up putting Fifth Harmony through, and then I just remember they just weren't working together cohesively. I mean, they just put the group together. It was like their first time singing together. And of the bunch, Camila Cabello's voice just rose to the top. She was so young at the time. She had a very distinct sound. Her pitch was great, especially in comparison to the rest of the group. Um, Throughout the X Factor, Demi Lovato made comments like, "Oh, who's that girl? Who's that girl over there?" And then, Camila's there, and she's like, "You should be a solo artist. Like, you are the best one of this group, like by far. Like you're like they can learn something from you, some like stuff like that." So, Camila kind of from the get go was kind of like the fan favorite of the group. Like she was the Harry Styles of Fifth Harmony. Like if you're gonna talk about like favoritism, Harry was always like the top of One Direction. And at this time, One Direction just took off. This was like the summer after, I believe, that One Direction really blew up in the United States. So this is like What Makes You Beautiful was popular, whatever. Um, Also, uh, random side note here, Camila Cabello like recently admitted on the James Corden show, like Carpool Karaoke, that the reason why she auditioned for the X Factor because she wanted to meet Harry Styles, and she thought by doing that she could marry him or something. Um, but anyway, so yeah, that's kind of like how I was introduced to her. I watched, so I've been following Camila Cabello since 2012. She had a few thousand followers on Instagram when I followed her on Instagram. Um, and then I just watched Fifth Harmony take off. Like, I think I mentioned in the last episode that I attended a Hot Shell Ray concert and they opened up for Hot Shell Ray. Um, and then like when I saw them live, like they just really like grew so much from the X Factor. Like I just remember like being pretty much like just flabbergasted by the growth and how professional they were and how well they were harmonizing, which was a big issue on the X Factor. They weren't harmonizing and their name was Fifth Harmony. Like what the hell? So,
Bad marketing.
yeah. So, anyways, Miss Moving On was their first single, and from there they ended up becoming one of the greatest girl groups of all time, one of the highest selling girl groups. They broke multiple records, um, toured successfully, many radio hits, couple billion streams, um, and then it wasn't until I think Camila's first solo song was with Machine Gun Kelly. She did like a feature on um I forget what it was. I can't remember the song off the top of my head. I'm like hearing the melody, I just can't think of the lyrics. Um so yeah, and then she did a feature with Shawn Mendes. I Knew What You Did Last Summer. Uh and then what was the other one? Senorita?
Yeah, Senorita, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then Senorita was one of their biggest hits, both of them. I think it's got over like 2 billion streams on Spotify.
Bad
Massive.
Things is the Machine Gun Kelly song
Bad
you're
Things.
thinking
There you go. Yep. Um, so yeah, and then she left Fifth Harmony, released the album that has Havana, however it's pronounced, on it. And that was a mega hit. That was one of the hits of the summer, landed her a Grammy nomination. Um, yeah, she really like cemented herself leaving Fifth Harmony. Like she did it leaving Fifth Harmony when she did, it might have been a blow to the other members, but for her and her career was strategically probably the best thing she could have done for herself. Um yeah, I believe Young Thug featured on Havana, and it's funny because in an interview he was saying how like there was an email in his inbox for like 6 months, and then his mom would like go through his emails and was like, "You need to do this collaboration," and like she kind of like forced him to do it, and then it ended up landing him a Grammy, or a Grammy nomination. Um,
It's crazy how stuff
so
works out like that, like for sure.
yeah, right, yeah. So he wasn't about it, and then he gave it a shot. So, um, yeah, so that's kind of like my history with Camila Cabello. I had the pleasure of watching her grow up. She was like my celebrity crush for the longest time. Um, yeah, seriously. So yeah, it was. I just think I'll leave it at that. We're gonna talk more about the music and whatnot, but that's my introduction to Camila up until
Oh
today.
god.
C XOXO came out last night.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, Wiley, tell me what it's been your
Well,
history.
that was really long-winded, Benny. So I'm gonna keep it short.
Okay.
It's basically the same. I watched X Factor. I was not a fan of Fifth Harmony. I forgot who was on the same season, but I was like, oh, they're winning everything, and I'm pissed off about it. It's like, you know how like when you watch those
Oh,
competition
was it
shows?
Emblem 3?
Yes, it was Emblem 3.
Yeah,
You're right. You're
yeah.
right. So yeah, I was a fan of them, and they were winning everything, so it pissed me off. And then her songs became earworms. You know, I wasn't really a fan of them. They became
Yeah.
just overplayed,
There you
excessive,
go.
catchy.
Overexposure. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my experience, and I never really did a deep dive into her at all until this. So I would like to start with the discussion to do something
Mhm.
about this album is, like I said, I don't write anything. So I wrote an interview, like a review here that I'm just going to read word for word on what I said last night after hearing it. Okay. I think this will be a good way to start the discussion.
Yeah, go for it.
So I quote, so ... I've never really been a fan of Camila's music, but never really sat down to listen to one of her full albums. But this time I did for C XOXO. I'm sorry to say I was right not to give her music any time of day, because this could be one of the worst albums I have heard all year. When one of two tracks that I like was carried by Drake and the sounds so much like the era of More Life, which I'm a fan of, ended um sorry. I'm last track
You're
for a
good.
second. Ended being one of the best tracks of the album that I liked. The beats of most of the tracks were severely lacking with some really odd some feeling really odd. Um Feeling sped up or just off key with odd claps. By far, the worst part is the awful autotune on every track, ruining the song every time, even when a song has a great beat and promising lyrics. There are also too many weird interludes in the album that feel like they were just there to dap up Camila for her music, which feels like she was what she was going for after watching interviews with her talking about the record, which already made me feel at odds with the project. One track I really enjoyed was the early 2000s tribute song Dreamgirls. It was a great vibe to listen to, even going back to some of her biggest hits, and a nostalgic feeling for me. The vocals still had problems for me though, with a bad autotune. It's like she listened to T-Pain and Heartbreak and 808s on loop, saying, "I want this sound everywhere." It just does not work at all. I'm not disappointed. I feel right in what I initially thought. So that's what I wrote last night. I think that's a great way to start this discussion. So
Okay.
Benny, what is your thoughts on on my review there?
Um, I think I think that's your opinion, and I respect your
I
opinion.
want to know your opinion.
Um, I will get to my opinion. But to answer your question about your review, I think you're not afraid to speak your mind and how you feel about something, and I admire that. Um, but I think you usually like approach things with like, I don't, correct me if you disagree, of course, but like I think I'm like starting to notice a trend where you kind of like go all in or all out, and like if you don't like something, you don't like it. If you like something, you love it. Um, and like, so like in this situation, like you did mention two songs that you liked, but you know they weren't
Well, that's
to
the
the rest. You
thing.
said, what was it, the Drake song and the Dream Girls, you said,
Yeah,
right?
Dreamgirls.
The
Which
two.
the
So
thing is you
mhm,
were saying I go on, which I have noticed I do that sometimes. But I can look at like the Normani album that we just talked about actually last episode. There was
that's
three
a good
tracks I
example.
liked that. You know, there was three tracks I
Mhm.
liked on that. I thought it was a middling album. It was mid. You know, it was like things like that. But the problem is the consistency of what I didn't like in the album, which is the autotune, the weird off beats, were still in the songs I enjoyed.
Yeah,
So I'm not gonna
yeah.
go back to it. So it's not like I'm going all in and hating it. It's just the thing that was already bugging me was continuing through every song which I didn't like. Um,
So
yeah.
that's a good example. So thank you for saying that actually. Um, so with that being said, just in this review in general, you mentioned the auto tune.
Yeah. Oh
So
God.
not all of the tracks had like pitch vocals like that, and like the auto tune is a creative decision here. It's
Yeah.
not like she could sing very well.
I know
It's
that.
kind
That's
of like
why I wanted
it's kind of
more of that, if
but
that makes
but
sense.
it's kind of like the Charlie XCX album
No,
where there
do
was a
not. No,
ton
no,
of
no, 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 no. No,
dude.
you are not doing that. You are not comparing this album to the Charlie album. They are so different, and one is
They're
superior.
not completely different in terms of the influence. So there's actually like I Love It, for example, is actually there's references to Charlie XCX in the song I Love It. Not only does Charlie XCX have a song called I Love It, but there's also hyper pop elements in that song. So like when people heard I Love It, they were expecting this to be a hyper pop album and it was kind of going to go in that direction. But in reality, this album has stayed more in the Latin pop, the Miami pop scene, um, and that's where Camila is from. She's from Miami. So so let me just to finish my statement that you intersected for a second in the Charlie XCX album. Just using this as an example, there's a lot of pitched and auto-tuned vocals done creatively. It's the production, right? The same thing was done in this album. You might not like the way it was executed, but it's still the same thing. It's not like, oh, like this is auto-tuned because she can't sing it. No, it's just auto-tuned for the creative aspect of it. This is that kind of music. It's dance music, it's club music. So like it's funny that you mentioned though the Drake collab is great. That's a great song. That could be a hit. It kind of sucks that that's coming off of Drake's like terrible loss to Kendrick Lamar in the rap battle. Um, but that actually is a phenomenal song. It kind of reminds me of past Drake collabs, like for example, "Take Care" with Rihanna. Like it's got his like signature like beat and like mellow tones and whatnot.
It's a Drake song. It's a Drake song.
Yeah.
Just like
Um,
the one single track on this album that is all Drake, which is ridiculous. Like, how are you going to
yeah.
defending that? How are you going to defend a full
No.
ass Drake song on a Camila Cabello album? That feels odd to me.
So there's nothing to defend or to attack there. It's a creative choice. Like people have done that before. It's not it's not unheard of for something like that to happen.
Wait, who has done that
Drake,
before? I can't think of anyone that's done that before.
take a look and you'll have a bunch of
So you
you'll
don't
have a
even know.
bunch. So back to what I'm saying. Yeah, so Drake and Camila came together and made this song. He loved the song so much. Not only did he, because people were saying like, oh, like how much did her label have to pay him to feature? They really want this album to perform well, blah blah blah. Um, but in reality, Drake did it for free, and not only did he do it for free, he loved the collaboration so much that he actually insisted on doing the interlude, and they put it in. So if you have one of the biggest artists in the world, uh, and they're approaching you, and you have this relationship, like, yeah, like why the fuck not? If you want to do that, that's her discretion, that's her creative choice. So what, Um, I don't think there's a reason to be so hypercritical about that. Um, but with that being said, the two of the greatest tracks on the album are the two that you mentioned, in my opinion. Um, I'm not really into Latin pop. I'm not really into like house music, but there were some great moments on the album. I'm just gonna take a quick look at my notes here. Let me just pull them up. Yeah, so Chanel number 5, I hated, honestly. Like like genuinely, I don't get it. Like it just wasn't for me.
I like to say the lyrics are like a Mad Lib because there's a random like dog wolf within in the song. It's really
Yeah.
odd.
The Playboy Cardi feature, people love the song. Like I love it's gotten great reviews. People love his feature on it. It's just not resonating with me. It's like kind of just like mumble rapping. It's just not my thing. So we got Chanel number 5, not a fan. Pink XOX, also not a fan.
Well, it's an interlude, so
Yeah. He Knows with Lil Nas X. I thought it was a great collab. Again, not for me. But she's got some great collabs on this album.
wait,
Uh,
but here's the thing with this track
so
though. Like the
Mhm.
thing with this track, it's a collab, but like after listening to it, I don't remember Lil Nas X part at all. Like it was just like it came and went. It was there for 2
Oh,
seconds.
interesting.
Yeah, so
It
it
was
was
longer than that.
no, I know it was. I'm just
Yeah.
saying it felt that way.
Oh, okay.
So like I did like this song too. I thought the beat was really nice. I think like her vocals were some of the best here, honestly, with a little bit lacking autotune, but still autotune there. And just yeah, like I came out like not remembering much of it, and that's my issue with it. And it feels like Lil Nas X felt perfect for that beat. It felt perfect, but nothing had a lasting impact on this track for me.
hmm So, moving on from that, 20 somethings. That didn't really stand out to me, to be honest with you.
That's the thing with most of these tracks on this album is there is promising aspects of it for me. Like I thought the acoustic backing track of 20 something was really nice, but like the auto tune just felt combatant with it. It wasn't
Yeah.
symbiotic. It was not good. Like it was just
Well,
excessive
I
auto-tune is the issue here. Like I don't
I so like that's again like that's a stylistic choice. Like that's just the genre. That's just the kind of sound that she's going for. If that's not for you, it's not for you.
I don't think it's for
Uh,
most people. Like even one of
I
the even one of the most highest critically acclaimed albums that has excessive autotune is Heartbreak and 808s by Kanye. But even people listening to that are turned off by it because of so much autotune. And that's the issue here. It's like she heard that
and a
album for the
lot of
first time.
people and a lot of people love it too. Like it's very much a stylistic choice. People love this kind of music. So again, like I'm with you, but at the same time, like these are our opinions. So they're not
I don't
like
get what you're trying to do here.
it's not
Like
a
I don't
I'm
like you're not
I'm
saying
just
your
going
opinion. You're just defending
I
other
am
people that enjoy the music,
I'm
Benny.
I'm not I'm expressing my opinion while acknowledging that my opinion isn't written in stone.
Okay.
Like
I
just
just wanted
because I say
yeah.
something doesn't mean it's true or it's actually like the reality of the situation. Like
Okay.
everyone's gonna have their own opinions, their own version of how this album is and whatnot, right?
Okay.
So
Last week I
let's
brought up
relax.
last week I brought up this website that does people like put their reviews on here, and I use it too. So out of
Mhm.
1,523 people giving their
Uh-huh.
reviews, and this is just like people, not critics, gave it a 41. The average score is a 41. So below
Yeah.
average. And only
So
30 of those people liked it. And critics, out of 9 critics, like critics that do this for a living, gave it a 53 as their average. So people from this website at least are not liking the album.
and like just how that you have that there, there's always mixed reviews. So like on album, C XOXO is at 87%. On Pitchfork, it's reviewed at 6.9 out of 10. So like you have like there's always going to be different things. You got something that's really high, something that's really low, something that's in the middle. Again, it's all subjective. I don't know what the
We're not here to
general
cover other people's opinion. We are here to talk about
e-
our opinion.
exactly, and I'm doing exactly that. Um, so yeah. But moving on from 20 somethings, Dade County Dreaming again. Not for me. I'm really wasn't a fan. Um, Koshi XOX. The
Wait,
the
hold on.
intro.
The problem with Dade Country, like it feels weird
Oh,
because
County.
yeah,
County.
the
Sorry.
beat has a consistent sound, but there's weird like faint claps in the background that brings off the vibe of the beat of the backing track that doesn't work. Like yes, it's artistic style, but it doesn't work in the sense of like you have a consistent tone and then you hear like it just feels so out of place for me, and it just
Yeah.
and like oh god, like
So what's actually interesting though is that this is one of the most like as of right now one of the most played songs on the album. So people are really liking this track as opposed to the other ones, which I think is really interesting.
mm,
But I'm with you. Like I think there's like a dissonance there. It's just not appealing. Um, at least with my first initial listen, I've only listened to this album one time. Um, and there's only so much you can get at face value like that.
mm.
Um, so yeah, definitely with you on that. The Koshi XOX
Okay, I really have to
song.
talk about this. This is
Yeah,
driving me
so do
insane.
I. I like dude, the way the song started with the voice note.
Yeah,
Oh, when my dog died. Like it was like I feel like it was trying to like provide this really like sentimental moment. Like,
yeah,
oh,
but
I listened to Camila Cabello.
it's boosting
Like
herself up. It's like a Drake move,
it's
honestly. It's like a
it's
Drake move.
yeah. I wasn't a like I kind of cringed when I heard it for the
Yes,
first time.
it's
Yeah.
awful.
So
Why do that on your album? Why boost yourself up? You don't need to do that. Taylor Swift
yeah.
doesn't do well. Taylor Swift has done something like that.
Yeah, she does it. She does it in
Yeah,
different ways.
she
A lot of people do it.
she
Like,
referenced herself in a song, which I think is but she didn't make an individual track that. It was just like a part, but
but
yeah.
also, like, she didn't say it herself. It was the BLP kosher person. So for the
Yeah.
people watching this that didn't listen to the album, which I doubt there's gonna be many people that do that, she wasn't. It wasn't her saying this. It was the collaborator
Yeah.
on the song that features.
It felt
So,
like a cop
or
out
on the
too.
interlude.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking weird. Excuse my language, but like I just
It's not
wasn't
good.
about it. I paused when I heard it. I paused and was like,
Did I play something on accident? Like
I was brushing my teeth when I was
oh my
listening to it.
god. Yeah.
So then moving on from Koshi XOX, we got Hot Uptown,
Yeah.
which is the Drake collab.
Yeah.
It's a great song. Like, genuinely, like
But
when we
yeah.
got to this song, this was when I first heard it. This was the first song that I listened to, and I was like, this could be a hit.
Yeah.
Genuinely, like of
But
everything. It's actually
also
really good.
yeah, you were mentioning when we started this that there's a lot of influence of Latin pop into this. I did not
Mhm.
get that feeling until this track. You know, all the other ones did not feel that way to
Yeah.
me. And then like
Mhm.
after like Hot Uptown, like even going to the Drake song and then going to Dreamgirls that has that Latin pop influence, but then it loses itself again, you know? Like I think the main thing here actually in watching an interview about Camila is like she didn't want to be associated with this goody two shoes pop artist. You know, she wanted to change her sound. And usually like that's the thing with Charlie XCX. She's not this goody goody, you know. She is this like against the grain type of artist, and she's like fully influencing herself, kind of naughty, if you will. So like it feels like that she was trying to do this type of music to do that, and yet when you look at the tracks that we've already talked about, the ones that stand out are the ones that go back to her roots in the Latin pop genre. Just saying.
Yeah, but this was by far the best. Like, this is a polished pop song. Like, this is a hit for sure.
Hmm.
Um, my prediction is that this is going to be the most successful song off the album.
Do you think it's
But
gonna?
hey,
Do you think it's gonna be a chop tarting song? Because I don't think so. I don't think it has that appeal.
I think if the label puts it out as a single, yes,
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
So like before we move on from this point, what I think is really interesting, I don't know if you like are familiar with any like controversy surrounding Camila, but she's been like outed for like making racist comments. And there are people
I did
that
not know this.
yeah, so they're like so people like claim that she's a racist and like she like I think she openly admitted I read this somewhere. I don't know if this is true. I read it on Reddit.
Allegedly.
Reddit on Reddit. But anyways, uh so yeah, so allegedly like she took classes to like learn about racism and to like right her wrongs or whatever. So not only does she have multiple African or just black artists, I should say, on this album, um, like most of the collaborators are, and then also she has a collab with a very controversial group. Where is it? I don't see it.
You gotta
I don't
take
know.
it down.
It must be a songwriter or like songwriters because I read and they were talking about it. But basically there's this group, maybe it's a songwriting group that like how do I say this? Had some kind of like controversy. So like the label was kind of like pushing this thing where they're coming in and putting people in to draw attention to this album because they need it. Um, but with that being said, another thing to mention here is that she's been getting hate on some of the titles. Sorry. So like I love it. Charlie XCX. So people are saying that she's ripping off Charlie XCX.
It does feel that way. Even though this album was in production for a while, it does feel like she's trying to rip off her.
Yeah, and then there was something about Lana Del Rey. I don't know which song it was because I'm not familiar with Lana's discography. But there's a song that has the same title as a Lana song. Um, there are elements that she like copied from other artists, other Latin pop artists, with titles and like certain lyrics. So like there's obvious influence. I think it's called Moti Mono was the artist. Moti, let me see.
Well, anyways, the
I don't know. Whatever.
yeah, the Drake interlude
Um,
feels out of place to me. We already had that discussion. It just does not feel good to me at all.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm with you on it, honestly. Like it's not. I don't know. Like it seemed more like a, even though it's separated, like it kind of
mhm.
felt like it was part of the song.
Yes, because I
You
watched an
know,
interview where saying that, oh, this was the tacked on ending to um Hot Uptown, but she didn't want to have this long outro like Drake does, so she made it a separate song. That was literally the explanation she gave. So it feels like that, and that's what it is. Then we got to Dream Girls, which I think is the best track on the album and still has its flaws
that's
as well. Uh, but yeah, I love the Latin beat here. I love the early 2000s vibe. I've been missing this, so that was good to get, but
yeah,
still some
yeah,
issues.
dude. I'm with you. Uh, this is like, when you go through an album and not many songs resonate with you, and
Yeah.
then one pops out at you, it's kind of hard not to like latch onto it or
Yeah.
remember it, right? So this was that for me. Yeah, and it's interesting how Hot Uptown and Dreamgirls kind of were put together, and they're
Then it goes
arguably
downhill
like the
again.
two. Yeah. Um. So 305 Till I Die. It's more of like
Interlude
an
again.
honor to. Yeah, but 305 is Miami.
Mhm.
So, Boat I actually think wasn't a bad song. To be honest
See,
with you,
I would love
a
to
lot of people like it.
I would have loved to agree with you because I think the songwriting and composition's beautiful. But the autotune gets in the way again for me. And I think like just her normal vocals would have benefited this song so much. And
Yeah, I agree.
the weird Pitbull sample in there, hotel motel, felt so odd, so faint. It was just caught me off guard and distracted me. Um yeah, so like there was a lot of promise to this song but fell short again for me. So
So I actually like, I agree with you. Like I'm not a fan of like overly produced music, and I do think the song would have been better without the autotune. Um, but I do think it's like cohesive in the sense that like the synth sounds do kind of complement the autotune. Um, it's interesting though because it starts off as like this kind of like lo-fi piano like introduction, and then it turns into this like over like, I should say over, but like a very basic synth sound. I don't know. I actually enjoy the song. I don't think it's bad. I think it's actually one of the better songs on the of the album. I would put it in like the top three album the top three songs probably for me. Uh, and that's a statement.
then Pretty When I Cry, uh
Honestly,
God.
forgetful for me.
Yeah, lacking power in the beat. Lyrics don't fit the vibe of the track of the composition as well. So it's just, yeah, forgettable. Yeah, June Gloom is just a Taylor Swift song with autotune. The lyrics feel that way. Uh, the composition feels that way. It just does not. The only difference is autotune. And she talked about talking to Taylor Swift and helping her with her writing. So it makes sense here. You know, it does. So, and I don't like the track either. So,
Yeah, so back to Pretty When I Cry. I'm listening to it again right now. Actually, I think this is gonna perform well. Pretty When I Cry, and like in like contrast to the rest of the album. But I guess we'll see what happens. Sorry. Um. Yeah, June Gloom though. I'm with you. Kind of sounds like a Taylor Swift song. That's actually a really funny but really true comparison. Yeah, I just see a lot of, so like, now that we're at the end of the album and we could talk about
yeah.
this. I don't know how you feel about like the attempt here, but to me this kind of seems like her attempt at a rebranding, kind of like a transitional piece,
Yeah.
to kind of redirect her sound. And I think she tried taking like a lot of inspiration from artists that she admires and trying to like make it cohesive and you know flow. Um, whether it's Charlie XCX, whether it's Lana, whether it's Taylor Swift, whether um, it's anybody that she idolizes within the Latin pop genre. Um, it's I don't think this album is horrible. There's a lot that I don't like about it. Um,
Oh god.
yeah, I there's a lot that I don't like about it. I would have I would have really appreciated something that felt more true to the Camila that I know.
Yeah, which is not what she
Uh,
wants to do.
yeah. So the Camila I know isn't who she is, apparently. So, uh, that's on me, not her.
Like
So
my
what
my
do you
clo-
what are you?
my closing thoughts is this is the worst album I've heard all year. I hate it. It's not good. I will not
Interesting.
be going back to me. Out of everything I've listened to this year, this is the worst thing I have heard. Um, it is just not good on so many levels. I wouldn't say it frustrates me. It's like kind of just proves my point. I didn't care about her to begin with. We were like, okay, we'll cover her because a big topic, and that's the only reason I covered it. And so like I didn't care then. I don't care now. It's just a bad album. So I'll tell you this much. I will not be listening a lick of her music ever again. I won't give her another album. I'm done with Camila. So I'm done. This was awful. I regret doing this. This was a waste of my time. I just did not like it at all. So let's transition to a little bit of smaller talk. This is going to be kind of like a album wrap up of this week. So I thought we could just kind of throw up what we listened to and like what really stood out to us. For me, a big standout is Omar Apollo's new album. I was a fan of him for when his first album dropped, which I thought was so good and put it on repeat. Loved it. Then last year came out with the album. I just did not like it. It wasn't clicking with me. It was different. It was a different vibe. It wasn't awful. This album feels like that first album, and it's so damn good. Vocally, lyrically, even the singles. You know how like when an album releases, the singles kind of get watered down a little bit because all these other songs are in there. They still stand out as some of the best tracks on the album, but also some of the singles are some of the ones that are not singles really stand out as well. Um, the Imagine Dragons, I listened to a little bit of that. Did not like it. Not a fan of them. It's stadium rock. It's the same old from Imagine Dragons, just middle of the bay music. Then the Lucky Day, who I've been a fan of from his first album, I really enjoyed, blew me away on this album. I thought it was really damn good. The production on each track, how it's different, but also continuing building on the past tracks, and then the vocals, it is just so damn good. It shocked me. But there's one issue for me. There's none of the tracks really stood out to me that I'm going to go back and listen to right now. It's like I need to give it another full listen to find out the ones that I really did enjoy. And that's my
Exactly.
only issue with it, but it's not really an issue. I think every element of the album is so strong and so good that I just need to put a little bit more time listening to it to really refine what I really like. And then, yeah, those are the ones I listened to this week. There's still a lot more albums I need to listen to that drop. So
Yeah. So on my end, I didn't get to listen to the Omar Apollo album, so I really can't give my feedback on that. However, I did listen to the Imagine Dragon albums as well, or Imagine Dragons album
you
as
listened to the
well.
whole discography of Imagine Dragons. Wow, Benny, I'm proud of you.
Oh, wow. Um, so yeah, the Imagine Dragons album actually wasn't bad. I think there's actually some great songwriting on it. Um, it's like pop rock, it's stadium rock. A lot of people with like the demographic of like 20 to 25, there's this like really there's this bandwagon opinion where people are like, oh, Imagine Dragons sucks, and I think that's kind of like the Taylor Swift effect, where there's like this overexposure of the music, and when you're one of the biggest bands and music, like artists in the world, you're gonna come with this backlash. And what I think is like really weird about this album, uh, is that they kind of like stay within their sound. Lots of use like there's like a heavy use of rhythm and lyricism and um utilizing syllables to create like a unbalance and balance in the sections and whatnot. um Dan Reynolds is a powerhouse songwriter. He's written for tons of artists. He's been a ghostwriter for tons of celebrity artists. Like that's how we got his start. They're also a Berkeley band, if you didn't know. Dan didn't go to Berkeley, but the other members did. um so yeah, just I just think a lot of it sounds the same, especially like when comparing to past past releases. Um, yeah. So with that being said, what was the other one? I'm
The
sorry.
Lucky Day album.
The Lucky Day album. So
Yeah.
I'm curious. Did you know who Lucky Day prior?
Yeah.
Who Lucky Day was prior to
Yeah,
this? Okay.
so he did a single with artist named SG Lewis that I really liked from last year, like fell in love with it. I was like, I'm gonna check out more of his stuff. Then I listened to his full album. I was like shocked, like this is good. Like I'm excited for the next release. So then I found out like mid last week of like, oh, he's releasing a new album. So I was like, okay, I'll listen to that. So like yeah, I knew who this guy was and was excited what he was gonna do next because I think he's been killing it and proved that in this album.
Yeah, so this was my introduction to his music. Never heard of him before. Um, Never seen his music on charts or anything. Um, so it's interesting, but from the get-go, from the first song, oh my God, I was just sucked in. So the first song, I think when you make an album, when you release an album, arguably what the most important track is the first track,
Yeah, because you're setting
because
the
that's
table of
yeah,
what you're gonna do.
exactly. This is what is going to cause people to continue on or to leave
Yeah.
from the very first
And
impression.
with the lack of importance put into the intro track, has made it where album listening is not really a thing that much anymore because people are just skipping around and clicking the songs, you know? So like that when you see the importance put on that track nowadays, it really has a lasting impact because a lot of people don't really care about it that much anymore.
That I wouldn't agree with. I think a lot of people listen to albums from start to finish, like especially like music people, like like
Yeah, but music people in the
aficionados.
general population is very different. They're not
Yeah,
correlated.
but even like an album is intended to be listened to from start to finish. So like whether someone
Yeah, but
hops
some people
around
don't do that,
or
is what I'm saying.
yeah, some people don't, but it is a power point in making an album is the first track. It's like it's a power placement, you know? Um but with that being said, there's it was so funky. The Daft Punk, dude, the Daft Punk influence, I love it. You move on into like further into the album, there was some Michael Jackson influence. Uh, then you get to like maybe like two-fourths of the way through, and it's like, is this Frank Ocean? Like there was so much Frank inspiration. You can really hear it in the music. Um, yeah, dude, I loved it. There were some songs that I had to skip over because I was just not feeling it. It was just like going through. It was like, but at the end of the day, the track has a lot of music, or the album has a lot of tracks, I should say. And that's bound to happen with big albums like that. Yeah, and also, crazy collaborations. You got Teddy Swims and Ray to do songs.
Yeah.
So, uh, really smart on his behalf. Those are two like up and coming stars, undoubtedly. Um, really phenomenal musicians and live performers. Uh, so yeah, this guy's great. I'm really excited to see uh what's to come because I've
Mm.
never heard of him before. I'm gonna check out the rest of his stuff.
Oh, everyone, that has been our discussion. Sorry we couldn't get into small topics this week, just big albums that we thought we should cover. It's a very busy music summer year. It's just so much. But yeah, but also there wasn't really much to talk about small topic wise this week, and nothing really big happened. The only thing is Sophie, who passed away, is releasing a new album, and we're going to have a discussion about that in a separate video, so make sure to check that out. So we're going to transition to some orange juice.
Starting off this week's Orange Juice segment. I love this band. They were just nominated for a Grammy. I think they might have even won one. This is Are You Ready to Love Me by the War and Treaty.
So my first pick this week is a band that I recently found out from New Music Friday, and they have a new album dropping, and I'm pretty excited for it. This is Favorite by Fountains DC.
Next up is Strawberry Sunscreen by Lost Boy Crow.
What's your type? She'll paint a cabinet from the 60s in front.
So the final song of this Orange Juice this week is an artist I really have been enjoying this year that just released a new album, and this is one of the tracks off of it. This is Better Hate by Jessica Pratt.
I've been clear before. What's the long?
Well, this has been another episode of The Fresh Record. A lot of things are happening. Like we said, short form content is coming out on the channel, some side videos that we are developing and stuff like that, so you guys can get that quickie content that you guys need instead of having to listen to the full episode always. But we appreciate when you do. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Benny, where can they find you and all the things you're doing in the world?
You can find me at Benny Camilla on just about anything. Shoot me a follow. You know, let's say hey.
And you guys can follow me at Wiley K. Todd. A ton of things are happening on my end. I actually wrote a script for the first time, Benny, for a TikTok. I never do that. So I'm going to be filming that a little bit later. Excited to do that. And guess what? It's about the bear. And finally, guys, I have a huge announcement. The video that I keep on talking about has been recorded. So now it's in the editing process. So eventually it will get out there, and I'm excited for you guys to see it. Took a lot of work, that video, and a lot of stress over a lot of time. So yeah. And again, follow me on TikTok and things like that. Making short form content like that and stuff. Yeah, stay update with the Fresh Record news. Benny might be coming to visit me again, so you might guys get some in-person content. A lot of it. We have like stations planned. Like we have this whole thing if it comes to fruition. So yeah. So we'll see you guys next time on the Fresh Record. Goodbye.